All right, welcome to episode 19 of Eat the Blank Page with me, Victor Rowe. I am an author, storyteller, and overall creator here on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and all the other things in my link tree that you can see down in the description. Now, if you're listening on Spotify, you may not know that I actually record video for this podcast, but if you're here at YouTube where I post it, you do. And that's good for me and for you because you get to see my wonderful beard, my hand gestures, and my ridiculously subtle physical humor. Now, today we got a lot to talk about, but before we actually talk about it, I gotta remind everyone, hey, I'm an author. I have a book coming out in about 2 months, and I'm very, very excited about it. It's called Doppler House. If you are interested, please be interested. It is a doppelganger love story that deals a lot with love versus obsession and toxic relationships. So it'll be great for all of us living with this 2024 nightmare. All right. Now, if you've been living under a rock like I have been, you might have noticed that Hazbin Hotel is kind of taking over the internet right now. And I'm actually a little bit late to the party. And that's okay, because last week's episode, I talked a little bit about it when I had watched 3 episodes. I don't know why that was the idea. But I actually went back and I watched the entire series, which is 8 episodes. Not too much different. But now I have a bigger grasp on what they were doing in the first few episodes. So one of the biggest things that we're going to be talking about today is just Hazbin Hotel, my thoughts, the storytelling aspects of it that I really liked, what they did with certain characters. That's going to be on later. And right at the end, we're going to be talking a little bit about Helldivers. I haven't played any of it, but it looks very, very interesting. I've seen a lot of gameplay on it. And there are some big takes with how it's telling a story that I actually really, really like to see. And there's some bigger lessons to be learned from that later on. But starting off, Hazbin Hotel. It's going to be the media episode. I hope everyone has watched it. If you haven't, please go watch it. It is hilarious. It is dark. It is gripping. The characters are wonderfully produced. Feel organic in the stylistic animation that they have. It's very, very good. Please go watch it. It's on Amazon Prime, I'm pretty sure. Not 1,000%. It's only 8 episodes, 24-minute episodes. Very, very good watch. Please go watch it. The soundtrack is amazing. If you have religious trauma and you like musicals, even if you don't like musicals, I'm meeting people and I'm exposing the show to people who don't like musicals, who don't like animation, who watch the show, and they love it. So it's definitely a good one to check out if you have any interest at all, especially if you want to know what we're talking about in this episode, because it's going to be a lot of that. If not, you can go watch the other 18 episodes that I watched. Watch it in reverse order. I got better over time. So if you really like me, go watch episode 1. It sucks, but that's okay, because we're getting better with it. But with the long-winded intro out of the way, Angel Dust, am I right? It is such a fun character that is kind of strategically put in the best spot you can imagine, right? Because Angel in the show is all at the same time the biggest part of the show and the smallest. Angel, as used in a narrative sense, as a tool for the plot to get across themes, to get across just attitudes towards the idea of Hazbin Hotel in general. Okay, if you haven't watched the show, let me explain the basic premise. Hazbin Hotel is about these demons in hell who, under the guide of the Princess of Hell named Charlie, who's actually very, very nice, is trying to put together a hotel to rehabilitate all of the demons that she can so they can be sent up to heaven. Because she doesn't like to watch the angels come down and slaughter all of her people. She sees the demons and the occupants of hell as her citizens because she is the princess. She's daughter of Lucifer. So the whole idea is that if they can learn the holy ways, if they can get rid of all of their sin, it's just a big rehabilitation center. It's just a big, hey, let's get you back on your feet so you can go up to heaven, because the angels will come down once a year to kill off a ton of demons and just souls that are there, because they're afraid of hell getting too strong. And this is very by the show's own premise of what goes on. This isn't, okay, it's definitely religious commentary, but as someone who is religious, I don't see it in that sense. It is a piece of art. It goes through the basic ideas of Christianity to begin with, but it's just in a different slot. So definitely don't take this show as a piece of scripture, but if you are religious, try to look at it in the sense that I'm gonna convey. So the whole idea of redemption is at the core of the show. So what they did with Angel specifically, and they did this with other characters too, it's kind of the whole point, but one of the biggest impacts the show had is episode 4. Now, every episode is, I'm pretty sure, 13 plus. It's rated 13 plus. Episode 4 is rated 18 and up because it has themes of sexual violence, of rape, of just horrible, circumstantial stuff. Angel has sold his soul to the demon overlord Val, who's basically just a pimp, and Angel is a famous porn star in hell. Because in hell, in this show, it's much more like the human world. There's society, there's money, there's products, there's followers, there's all that kind of stuff. So what Val is the porn producer and has Angel under contract to do whatever Val wants. And Angel is understandably very impacted by this. It's his whole thing. Almost every line of the show, every emotional beat that he has, every kind of thing they try to convey through Angel comes out of that dynamic. That he is bound contractually to Val and is super messed up. They hit you in the face with episode 4 to show that Angel isn't all laughs and, sex jokes. Where it's actually a front. He's faking it. There's a side of him that doesn't like what he does. There's a side of him that doesn't want to do all the drugs. There's a side of him who doesn't want to drink, who doesn't want to have sex with strangers, who doesn't want to do the porn, who doesn't want to do any of that. But Angel is an allegory for addiction. So they call him Angel Dust. When he was a human, he OD'd on Angel Dust, cocaine. That's his whole thing. He is a demon of addiction, just like Husk is addicted to gambling. And because that was he used to be an overlord. His whole thing was gambling. His whole thing was poker. All that. His design is based on poker. But just because Angel is hypersexual in who he is, doesn't mean that he's a bad person or now a bad demon or all this stuff. And so episode 4 hits you with that realness that I think the show really wanted to convey. Just like how last week I talked about how they really use Sir Pentious as a tool to show you how everyone else sees Charlie, where they gave you a character that you hate, you do not like, and you don't want them to win or succeed or to get redeemed or whatever. And by the end of the show, you love this character. They wanted you to dislike the character so that they could show you how everyone else sees Charlie, because Charlie forgives Sir Pentious and he becomes one of the main cast. So just like in that sense where they used him to get a point across, they use Angel to get the seriousness across. To go, hey, we know we make a lot of jokes. We know it's very ha-ha. Demons are bad. Addictions are bad. Whatever. But this is still hell. This guy's not having fun. And as kind of a second level of showing how the redemption in the show will work. Because they play the long game with Angel. They don't do what they did with Sir Pentious, because Sir Pentious played the short game. It was, I'm evil, I'm going to kill everyone. This Sir Pentious, I want power, I want to kill Alistair, I want to kill a cherry bomb. Blah, 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 blah. And pretty quickly, Sir Pentious just becomes a cool guy. He is agreeable, he jokes around. He's still a dork. And very no! Very over-the-top dramatic, but there's nothing bad about that. He becomes a better person through the teachings of Charlie, through just being acquainted with all of his friends, through Vaggie and that little scene where she throws everyone out into war and they become blood brothers or whatever. And with Angel, they didn't do that. They gave you they told more of a story. It was less of an in-your-face example and more of an overarching, this is the main person you're going to look at when it comes to things like redemption. We know Vaggie is already loves Charlie. And halfway through the show, or towards the end of the show, they like officially become a thing. Alistair doesn't need to be convinced. He's already there. Husk and Nifty don't need to be convinced because they're following Alistair. They have no choice. They don't care. They don't give a shit. Angel is unique in the sense that he isn't exactly tied to anyone and is only crashing there for the free rent. And so to have someone who's using the system, who has given up on themselves completely, to be turned around by people like Husk and the unconditional support of Charlie, V, everyone in the house, the friendships he builds, the love interests that he builds. I want to talk a little bit about that. They show you that he changes, and in no better way than when Charlie goes up to heaven to kind of talk to the angels and is like, I have someone who is changing. I have proof that this whole Hazbin Hotel idea works. In Angel, she does not show Serpentius. She does not show Alistair. There's no other people who actually go. I'm going to show you Angel because I've seen change in Angel. And so, beginning of the show, the guy's hopeless. Like, he's got a good heart, whatever, when it comes to Charlie and defending the whole hotel from Serpentius. But when it comes to like who he is as a character, we really don't care. Episode 4 makes us care. Episode 4 also gives us Husk being interested in Angel, but like that's a whole other thing. So to see Charlie go from, in the first few episodes, Angel, you don't count, you don't actually want to be here, you don't care about the rehabilitation, to change it up and go in front of the Council of Heaven. Doesn't even tell him, I'm going to use this guy as an example for how effective the actual hotel is. This is how we change people. This is how we're going to get redeemed. And it starts the whole argument back and forth with Sarah and Emily and just doubt in everyone's mind, and Adam spilling the beans to Emily. And it starts a whole other line of events to happen later. Now, in that bit of character growth, which is like really what it's trying to show, you see how you can take a character and play the short game. You can play Serpententious. You can play, hey, this guy is a tool. This guy is a plot device. We gave him a really funny gimmick to get you to like him. We gave you a few moments so that you kind of grow an appreciation for him. You kind of go with the emotions with him a little bit. You kind of know where he's at. He's a very easy character to get. You need the entire show to understand how Angel is Angel. You cannot judge Angel as a character on episode 1 by itself. You cannot judge Angel as a character by episode 6. You need the whole show, because the whole show is the arc. The arc isn't one episode. The arc isn't, hey, this is our idea, and this is our example. We're supposed to grow with the character to see how even the most heinously disrupt and lost characters can be rehabilitated, can be changed, how a soul can change even after death. There aren't any rules set in stone, and that idea that someone can actually change is huge, because one of the main reasons that Heaven doesn't want to do anything is because they don't think anyone can change. They are also working on BS rules, but that is something entirely different. Using Angel in this way can really be impactful. While we may remember, we're not going to remember Serpentius. We're not going to remember Serpentius and his little turnaround like you might if you're talking about it, right? But unless it's specifically brought up, you're not going to think about Serpentius when it comes to Hazbin Hotel. You're going to think about Angel. You're going to think about Angel because he's one of the main characters. There's a lot of main characters. Angel is there on the emotional front, on the concept front in general. It has ties to a villain, which is a whole other angle of the story to take, because everyone is connected to a villain. in Hazbin Hotel, there are certain villains that are the underlords of hell or overlords of hell or whatever. And each one of them has their own thing. Oh, the TV demon, the radio demon. Now, I might not be technically gifted enough to explain to you all of the specific names and roles of each character archetype, but I can tell you this. They're setting up a spider web. What do I mean by that? Because I'm not formally educated. You're not formally educated unless you are. And what do I mean when I say they're setting up a spider web? When I say they're setting up a spider web, I mean, imagine that your whole idea of the story, you reading a story, watching a movie, watching a play, any story laid out, has ideas sprinkled throughout it that lead to a greater theme or narrative. And when I say spider web, that means that there's going to be a second season, a second movie, a second episode, something. There's going to be a story that is overarching specific pieces of content. Is it multi-season? Is it multi-episode? Is it first and second act of a play? Is it a series of movies like Harry Potter? There's like 6 movies. Twilight, Star Wars. Those ideas that are laid out over the entire series is not what I am talking about when I say setting up a spider web. Spider webs are meant for conflict. The only things that happen on spider webs are these monsters that are just made to sit there and wait for something to land, to scuttle over, devour, wrap up just in a nice, neat little present, get out of there. That's where that's what the spider web is for the reader. The reader is the fly that lands on that spider web, or the watcher that lands on that spider web. And in this spider web, when it falls down, when it falls onto it and the spider rolls over, which is the show or the author or the director, whatever you want to call it, is going, oh, we're going to take some of this idea, slap you on there. We're going to take some of this idea, slap you on there, and we're going to let you dissolve with those ideas. And then we're the watchers. We stay alive. We don't die. They don't eat us. This isn't an actual spider situation. They open it back up at the end of the season and they go, oh, God, we need more. And so they move you to another part of the spider web. But how spider webs are set up, each little thread is connected to the other. So we're going to use this guy to get you over here. And then in this season, we're going to do a bunch of stuff to you. And then we're going to take you out again. And we're going to move you over here. And then but it's all on the same line. There's things that still connect. And you're setting up for things later. It's not just a single little patch that you have covered in a spider web. You have a whole area. So you have this whole interconnecting work of people and ideas and places and themes and possibilities, and that's where fan theories come from. But you have all this land to work with as an author, as a director, and so they're just taking you by the scruff of the neck and they're running you through the paces. So you have the idea of this side of the pentagram is a line said, I want to say episode 3, which sets up the idea of scale. They also set up the idea of scale through visiting different sectors. Now, each sector, or whatever it's called, are ran by certain overlords. And we don't go through the entirety of hell. We don't run through all of the overlords we know there to be because of a specific scene that Alistair goes to a meeting with all the overlords, which are just very, very powerful demons. We see 8. We're introduced to 2 or 3. No, the spider one does not count. We see him a little bit and never again. So out of the 8, the giant neon wolf, some other people, we meet Lady Killjoy, who is the leader of the cannibals, which has her own section and own theme, which is the roaring 20s. And then you have Castiello, I want to say, I don't know, I was probably the wrong name, who's an arms dealer, which sets up later for the final conflict because they need angel weapons or whatever. They lay the idea of scale out. Okay, scale is good. Scale is good when you're talking about a whole dimension, that being hell, because you want to set up that there's different places to go to solve certain problems later in your story. That's something very good to do if your story is that on that big of a scale. Doppler House, my story, is set in a house. So it's a lot less scale. You don't need to know, you don't really need to know even where it is. It could be in New Hampshire, it could be in Africa, it could be anywhere, but there are trees and snow and stuff. All you really need to know are how many floors are there, what's the yard like, where does the main road lead to, is the diner that's nearby, that kind of thing. I don't need to describe to you the other towns around it, unless we're going to go there. And we don't go there in that story, so I'm not going to talk about it. But setting up the idea that there's this whole city, whole area, whole world to explore is a very good thing to do when setting up this little piece of the spiderweb. And from here, lots of things happen. Overlords. They are characters, they have personalities, they have perspectives, they have connections to other characters that form different dynamics where you can give off different themes. Characters are huge. They are one of the 3 pillars of story that I talk about all the time. Characters, setting, conflict. Now, this is the part to remember. I am not formally trained in writing at all. I just love stories. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I annotate every book I read to try to study how stories work. And those are the 3 pillars that I found work the best for me when trying to look at a story with my author vision. Now, the idea that those overlords are set up spark something that we see already. Angel being connected to Val. Alistair having a rivalry with Vox. Vox and Val work together as 2 overlords in like a power with a 3rd one that doesn't really do anything this season. But already we see the power that we can get from characters who rule over areas, because now not only does that area speak to that character speaks to that area, and you better believe they're gonna be like conflicting, or they're gonna be talked about, they're gonna be associated. The themes that you see in one town are gonna be represented and shown through the character themselves. You see this in Lady Killjoy, how she's very like prim, proper, 1920s, yay. Relationship drama is my favorite, or I'm an expert in relationship drama. That whole thing, the people that she leads, the souls that she owns. You see this in Alistair. He's very secretive. He's very quiet. He mainly kills other overlords for power. So you never see his people. You see a few people he has contracted, but he doesn't rule over a specific area. He's only in it for himself. So it's like that kind of a character. And Alistair is a huge character. Maybe I'm rambling. I don't know. But already we are seeing the second tick of the spiderweb trap us as the viewer, because we have the scale, now we have the characters associated with it, and now we have those characters who we may not even care about, we might not even know, are connected to the main characters that we do care about, who we do know, who we do want to see do good. All of those ideas are huge because they are the core parts of a story, because characters lead to conflict in a setting. Those characters are also in the setting. So for every point that you make, you need to draw lines between every single one. So you have a sense of scale. That's one point. Characters, it's a second point. And then you have those characters connected to other characters. That's 3 points. Okay. So how does a character who's under sole contract to a character respond when they enter the realm, let's say, of the person they're under contract of? Do they like it? Do they dislike it? Do they hold resentment towards the entire area as a whole? Do they not like anything that reminds them of their overlord? Do they like their overlord? Those kinds of questions start popping up. Now, how would the boss in charge character respond to the one they have under contract in their area? Do they like it? Are they meant to be there? Is it their whole point is to be there? Like how Angel is supposed to be a porn star for Val. Now, we can also talk about themes and how characters will always be your best tools to show your theme. You can, because it's writing and there's no one way to do this whole art thing, but you cannot only show a theme through one point of view. To do it is cheap, weak, and ineffective. You need to use your characters as lenses on a problem. Where is it? This glass is the glass I drink out of. I put some ghost powder in there. I put my fancy little round ice cube because I like it. and I drink out of it with my little stir thing. This is like a liquor glass. It's not meant for this kind of thing, right? Now, I see it in a very certain way. I see it as something that gets me ready to work. When I come on these podcasts, when I start recording, when I write, when I market, when I lay out ideas and I plan stuff, I go to this. This is my fuel. This is part of my pre-writing ritual. Rituals are so important to me as a writer and as someone who goes through an art process. Rituals are very, very important for getting your mind checked. So it enables me to do my job better. The job that I want to do for the rest of my life, the job that I enjoy doing the most, it enables me to do better. I hold this little cup in very high regard, and any other cup that I might be drinking out of. But you might think it looks unbelievably stupid because it has a brass little tea stir and a liquor cup with a cheap little ice cube ball silicone thing in there with basically gamer fuel. It is a weird cup, but by describing it in the two different ways, you can learn a lot of each perspective based off of the other perspective. I hold it in high regard for what it lets me do. I see it as more of what it is. You see it as what it is. And before I told you what I look at it as, you just saw it as some freaking cup that he forgot to move out of frame. The themes and plot points in your story can be looked at the exact same way. Only it's not some little cup. It's not some basic object in the background of a podcast video. It is an idea. And ideas are important. They are the core of everything you have to do with storytelling. Ideas spawn your themes, your emotional beats, your fans. They spawn your fans. It's how you connect with the people who are actually reading your stuff, who are watching your videos or movies or TV episodes. Art is emotion giving form in any form that you can think of, whether it be video, podcast, writing, or TV shows. And what the ideas give when you talk about these ideas and when you see these ideas through your characters, you are dissecting something so vast. You wrote a whole show about it. You wrote a whole book about it. So why not look at the idea as the idea in every possible light for your audience to understand it from other people's point of view, from their own point of view, to find appreciation in it, and to just give more of the idea itself. The more you break down an object, the more you break down an event, the more you will learn from it. And learning's fun. We all love to learn. We wouldn't be on YouTube if we didn't. Education can be entertaining. Entertainment can be educational, but it doesn't need to be Bill Nye coming at you with facts or lessons or numbers. It can be emotional lessons. It can be lessons on mental health, how to deal with addiction, how to help someone that you see dealing with addiction, how to treat your family, how to treat your friends. These are all giant things that you can teach the people who view your content through these lessons. And it's what you're doing anyway, because you're setting up conflicts that has resolutions that are coded in a theme that you as the author have felt probably and want to share with people, want to get out there and expose to people and say, hey, I've seen it from all of these different views. I might have talked to other people to share these different views. Here's this idea in a negative sense. Here's this idea in a positive sense. Here is this idea. It meant so much to me that I'm giving this gift of art to you. I hope you appreciate it. I hope you enjoy it. And the more perspective you get, the more different audience members you get to look on it and give their own feedback. Now, I might take art a little bit too seriously, and I might take writing a little bit too seriously, but it's what I do. I'm an author. I'm a storyteller. It is what I do. It is what I obsess about. It is what I think about. So I will not be taking any criticism. I love this so much, I made a podcast about it. So that's what the spiderweb does. Getting back to the spiderweb just for a second. The more points you have set up, whether it be characters over here, characters over there, connections between two characters, points in the setting, powers, magical powers, the ideas of possibility, the ideas of attitude, changing attitude, it's a multi-layered machine that's just going "Arr!" of ideas. So if you have more than a few ideas, you have a whole show. And maybe I didn't cap off the angel dust thing either. Shows addiction, shows the over. No, I did. I think I did. I don't know. Cut that out. And whatever. But yeah, I also want to talk about some things I saw that they did. Referencing back the spider web that I was talking about earlier, they laid out a bunch of possibilities and a bunch of avenues that they could go. And they solved some problems, which is important to do when you're doing a multi-seasonal show, when you're doing a series in general, where there are huge blocks that you follow, whether it be a series of movies, a series of seasons in a show, or just book entries into a series by themselves. Those are all it's very, very important to a show or to a story in general to solve problems during your actual seasons, during your books, during your movies. There needs to be a sense of, hey, there were characters in a setting solving a conflict. And there are going to be lots of overarching. There's going to be usually there's one or two overarching problems, or there's one big one that is started at the beginning and finished at the end of the entire series. At the entire series, that is what it is dealing with. Harry Potter and Voldemort. Harry Potter became the boy who lived because Voldemort went to kill his parents. His parents saved Harry. Harry ends the entire series by finally defeating Voldemort, who had been causing the next thing we're talking about. Series-specific problems. Book-specific problems. Secondary problems. The ones where it started in the beginning, solved, dealt with whatever, and finishes halfway point, that then spawns another one. That takes you from the halfway point and sends you all the way to the end. And those are important for a sense of milestone satisfaction. But then you break it down even further. You have book-specific, show-specific ones, entry-specific ones that are dealt with at the beginning of the entry and solved at the end of the entry. For Hazbin Hotel, that would be Adam. Adam being the main force behind the extermination. Adam dies at the end of Hazbin Hotel. Like I said, spoilers. And so that problem is solved. And that's what I'm talking about right now. The threads that they left for there to be a season 2 in general, that they left for us to think about, theorize about, and wonder about. Because theorizing is one of the most powerful things that a story or series can do for the audience to keep talking about it. FNAF! Just look at that! It was 95% theorizing. That spawned careers. That spawned just a few $1 billion in revenue. Just out of nothing but theorizing. Look, my dog. And what we can learn from that is that when your audience starts theorizing, they are invested, they are wanting more. So, leave some more for round 2. For season 2, they have a few different things that are ripe to be dealt with. I have them written down. Lilith, the new hotel, the snake got into heaven, Alistair in general. Those are the main things. So Lilith, right? Lilith is shown for the first time in the series at the final episode, where Lute, Adam's kind of partner, hype man, whatever you want to call him, or her, goes to Lilith and is in heaven and is complaining about Charlie for what's been going on. She's very upset that Adam died. That whole thing. So Lilith doesn't give anything to the audience. So we're left with endless possibility. I personally see Lilith as being very, very depressed in heaven to have the juxtaposition of what we would expect an absentee mother to be going through. Where a lot of the times in real life, we have divorced households, we have single parent homes, where if Lucifer has been a very, very bad father when it comes to staying in touch with Charlie. And in the show, they kind of mend that relationship with a nice bow. Still definitely has some issues. But we saw one end of the spectrum of the parent is super for it, just has a lot of their own stuff going on, and through what the child's doing, they reconnect their relationship. Very, very cool, very, very nice to see. But with the spot that Lilith is in, she's in a different setting, under a different set of rules, but she's been in the same kind of spot as Lucifer. So we have something to bounce our expectations off of past experience with. This is the other parent of Charlie. This is the other half of Lucifer that made the main character. So there's gonna be something about her that we either really like or really don't like. Whatever it is a main plot point. You cannot get that across enough, that we've dealt with Lucifer as a main plot point. We're going to deal with Lilith as a main plot point. And that's awesome because, like I said, I expect her to be very, very depressed. That she can't be there with Charlie, that she can't take care of her daughter, that kind of thing. I don't see her being too uppity, stuck up. I can't believe that little brat doing whatever. I'm happy, I'm in heaven, get got. I don't see that's what's happening because they're deviating off of what the Bible says and all of the scripture. So they can really do whatever they want. And with that comes the possibility of her being just very depressed, very sad, even though she's in heaven, which is like, oh, that's how much she cares about Charlie. But how they're setting it up, I'm pretty sure she's going to be very, oh my gosh, I have to do something as a mom. Get out of here. I hate this kid. Because we saw some flashbacks of someone taking Charlie away from Lucifer and being very, very mean to Lucifer. So there are some threads there with Lilith, and with Lilith as a character that's connected to two of the main characters, that being Lucifer and Charlie. There's a lot of possibilities there, a lot of points in the spider web to kind of slam together. Now, with the new hotel, with Lucifer being convinced of the idea of the hotel, and after his crazy 1v1 with Adam, he is like, hey, I'm going to make you a new hotel. We're going to upgrade it. You got me on your team now. We're all cool. It's going to be great. So they make this giant, luxurious hotel that's awesome and has a fountain and stuff, whereas the last hotel was very rinky-dink, was very eh. But with the new powers, with the new people invested, and the new season, yeah, so you have a whole new location to explore that is still named after the main location, the first one. So you have a whole new possibility to re-explore an area. Okay, who are the cleaners? What's the reception place look like? What's the lobby look like? Where do they all hang out? What can they do now that it's upgraded? There's new possibilities. There's new, maybe like a pool, maybe a tennis area. Maybe once we're given something very, very nice, like how this is going to be a deep cut, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, just like how they gave you max armor, max health, max stats, max everything, and then in that first cutscene takes it all away from you because you lose it. Maybe we get one of those like halfway through the season. Maybe Lilith comes down and fucking smacks the hell out of the hotel as an FU to Lucifer, Charlie, and their whole idea in general. Because Hazbin Hotel is the name of the show. It represents the whole idea. The crux of the narrative is the hotel. You have a new one. Explore it. Do it. And because it's connected to every character we know, whatever happens to the hotel says everything we need to know about who is attacking the hotel, who hurts the hotel, who's trying to infect the hotel, who's trying to get the hotel to stop being a thing. If you ever see me looking over here, I'm looking at myself because I find myself very, very handsome. There's not just a change in a new character that represents old ones and reflects a specific one that we learn a lot about, Lilith and Lucifer. It's not just about the new location and the new attitude that everyone's going to have moving forward with the hotel itself, that it's new and big and bright and awesome and more people are on board. There's proof. There is proof of the whole point of the narrative. There is someone who was a demon that is now in heaven. Sir Pentious, our old friend, and explaining quick little bits of narrative that the audience needs to properly move forward in the story, is back at it again with being the one that made it to heaven, surprises Emily, shocks Sarah, and that whole exchange at the very, very end of the show is huge moving forward. Because now No one can deny it's real. No one can deny Charlie that her idea doesn't work. But because of that, how each character responds to it is going to be very, very important. What I see happening, Sir Pentious makes it to heaven. Emily is ecstatic because the idea that Charlie brought up works and she's for it. Sarah, mortified, but as a higher archangel, either hides away Sir Pentious, kills Sir Pentious, does something negative to Sir Pentious, and then kills Emily, or through what she does to Sir Pentious, Emily becomes a fallen angel. To counter what happened to Sir Pentious, an angel that becomes a demon, not a demon that becomes an angel. This being in the show now, as a thing moving forward, is exactly what we've been talking about with the spiderweb. It's just, now all of these questions aren't questions. They're answered. We have proof. We have the means to tell a whole new perspective on the story. Now, it's not a hopeless battle. Now, there's progression. There's an evolution to the story. There's something new that we need to talk about moving forward, which is big. Because now everyone's reactions are going to be right in the middle of it. They're probably going to really get a really good song that we're all going to be singing on repeat for weeks, like we all have been already. And that's cool. And it's going to be very, 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 very good. I like to see it. And it does exactly what the last things that we've been talking about. It's going to give more content to the second season. It's going to give a season-specific problem whilst also moving forward with the overarching problem that is the Hazbin Hotel in general and Charlie's whole goal. Very, very excited to see it. Very, 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 very excited to see it. If you can't tell by how much I'm yelling today. Speaking of falling angels, Adam's probably going to end up in hell. I would love to see Adam in hell. I would love to see Adam get redeemed by the end of season 5 that they haven't even announced yet. But I think, personally, having a show about redemption that leads to the full redemption of the main villain in season 1 would be awesome. Because now we're not talking about the redemption of some demon. We're not talking about the redemption of Lucifer. Oh God, no. Too high of a character. We're not talking about the redemption of Sir Pentious. We're not talking about the redemption of any random demon. We are talking about the main villain of season 1 that started the conflict of season 1 and the entire show to begin with, that died at the hands of the characters we like, went to hell, is probably going to get in some trouble, maybe have a change of heart, maybe get rejected, maybe get accepted, who knows. Going to go through a lot, and eventually even the audience is going to like Adam again. Maybe he fits in as a demon, maybe he does even better, but whatever they do is going to be huge commentary on Christianity as a whole, which is how it goes when you're talking about heaven and angels and demons and stuff. But as a few quick little examples for more spiderweb points, interwoven connections. Alistair's contract. It is brought up by Husk that Alistair is also on contract. Now, the theme of 7 years is important. I said that Alistair before the events of the main show were gone for 7 years. It is also said that Charlie hasn't seen Lilith in 7 years. So there's a lot to go on there. Maybe Alistair's connected to Lilith. Maybe Alistair's more connected to Charlie than we might think. There can be a lot of drama that comes from those family parts, because family is another huge theme that they explore through Lucifer and Charlie, and just how Charlie views her people as a whole. Now, that is more apparent with Alistair versus Lucifer, but then again, why is Alistair there in the first place? That is one of the biggest questions. So anything we can divulge from that, the fact that Alistair is on a contract, the fact that the 7 years matching up with something that seems completely unrelated, leads everyone to theorize. And we talked about how important theorizing was before. The spider demon overlord guy, he's cool with Alistair. Not a lot of people are. So it's like, how important is he? Why are all the other overlords so respectful of him? and what can he do for the plot moving forward. Now, there is something I want to bring up specifically about this spider guy. Angel is a spider. He is called Spider in the show. That is a thing that happens. They call Angel Spider. You do not have two demons with the same theme and not make them related. I refuse to believe it. It will not be a thing. I believe that Angel is connected to the spider demon overlord. God, I wish I could remember his name. And through that connection, the V's, that being Vox, Val, and the fucking Instagram bitch, are controlling him because Angel is more closely related to Celestial, I think his name is, the spider demon overlord, than we might think. Yeah, and just one of the reasons that Val is going to be a bigger threat moving forward. Now, it was confirmed by the showrunners that in season 2, the V's are going to be much more of a threat, going to be much more of the main villains. So I think that is something that can be brought up, is that they might have connections that affect the main cast in very, 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 very impactful ways. But that is just another theory. And I want to move through these as fast as I can. Yep, that's all I have. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed the Hazbin Hotel portion of the podcast. At 52 minutes, I'm going to have a lot of editing to do. But that's okay, because I love doing it. And, you know what else I love? Patriotism. Helldivers. Okay, this is going to be the quick little end cap of the episode. The idea of a narrative, or a story in general, I personally view as a piece of art. And as we explore what art can be, explore what video, what pictures, painting, and just kind of storytelling in general can be, there's this idea of collaborative storytelling, active storytelling, or improv that has become much more sophisticated. D&D has really blown up in the last couple of years not in the last couple of years, but recently, more so than before, in like the 80s and 90s, because of things like D&D podcasts. Things that are telling a narrative to an audience, not just the players anymore, where there's an active development. They don't know what's going to happen at the end of the story, because it's entirely based on the input of the people playing the characters, of the players in general, because it is a game. And we saw, along the same vein of choose your own adventure stories, but those had set endings. In a game like D&D, anything can happen. You can ask to start eating dirt, and you have to roll for strength, and then roll for constitution because you just ate dirt. Anything can happen. You can kill any character, you can fight any character, you can do anything. So anything can eventually happen based off of what kind of DM you have. With these ideas come tall tale games with different endings. You have things that affect the endings of certain games with like certain collectibles that you find. And there's this idea of the whole idea of different endings lead to something like D&D, where you start off with choose your own adventure with pre-selected adventures, and then evolved into a free-flowing, forming, endlessly developing story that do have markers set by the DMs, but it's entirely based off of what the players do that dictate the entire story. So with that idea of a developing narrative, we get Helldivers. And whoa, is Helldivers special, because it's hitting a lot of key points very strongly. It is hitting the controlled narrative, the endlessly developing narrative through the war effort. Okay, first off, Helldivers is a shooter. It's a 3D shooter. You can get guns. You go down onto alien planets to fight aliens, take over territories, fight for specific positions in an overarching war that's going on within the game. And you drop into hell, complete a certain objective, and get out of there. That's the whole point of Helldivers. You're diving into hell. You get it. And what it does is it gets people invested, which is huge. I'm not even going to talk about that first. No. Based on the missions that they actually complete, the players actually complete, the things they actually do, the progress they actually make, the more territories they fight for affects whether they lose or win the territory over the bugs and the automatons. And either the robots or the bugs or whatever, they're trying to gain land for humanity to win the war. And you win more by gaining territory. So the idea that the whole point is to actively fight for a specific territory says, hey, what happens in this game is up to you. How much do you want to fight? How many hours do you want to put into this game and play our game for as long as you can to win the war? You don't know if you're going to win. Why aren't you taking back the creek? Why aren't you fighting for the mountain? You need to get there. You need to do this. You need to get it done. You need to fight for your people. You need to find your brother in arms. It's all of this stuff. It is all of these notes that I'm bringing up that lead to the popularity of Helldivers. It is accessing the want to fight for something. The idea of purpose is being instilled into a player like never before. What? You have a raid party? The entire community playing the game has become the raid party. We all have our own specific part to play because every mission we do, every piece of gear we get, every party we join up with, and the amount of bugs or robots that we kill lead to the story, lead to developing the story, lead to specific outcomes that affect the entire fan base, that affect the entire goal of the game, which is to win the war, to spread democracy, whatever the hell. And by enlisting the sense of purpose, they have unlocked this sort of idea that you can get people so hooked to that feeling of purpose that they're just going to go. And yes, it's been there forever with video games, with campaigns making you the hero of the story, with raids being introduced in things like World of Warcraft that give you a role to play, and by extension, games like Overwatch that have you play a specific role in team fights, in specific matches. But no, it's no longer the matches. It's no longer two different teams of people going against each other. It is an entirely AI controlled just army versus the entire community. And it is highlighting, circling, and underlining the word community more than ever before, because we're all fighting for something. That's the words they use. We are killing digital little bugs that are little computer parts. That's it. They're not real. And it's like, we want them to be real so bad. We believe that they're real. I believe they're real. I haven't even played the game, and I am so for democracy. It's not even funny. But it's like, I want to get the game. I want to help out. I want to see what it is. I want to see if I can affect. I want to be hero. There's going to be people who are actual heroes in this game because that's how war works. We've replaced the need for war in a society by giving an entire community of people a fun game that's a fun shooter, that's addictive, that you can play with your friends or play with anyone else in the world because it's an entire team effort versus a single or a double force that is just so huge and unbearable that it's a hard fight every single time. The game is made to be difficult. The game is made to be rewarding in that same sense when you're able to do very difficult missions, when you're able to help out more. Every time you get a new piece of gear, you're going to help out more. You're going to kill more enemies. You're going to take over more land. That's the drive, and it is addictive. And I've seen people get so into it, even just talking about it, even hearing about it on the Distractable podcast, even watching my favorite streamers like Raynor Varus Jr. play it. I'm getting hooked. I want to see what happens. And that is the thing, is that the thing that you want to see happen can be affected by you. That makes you want to play the game. It makes me want to play the game. I want to play the game. But this evolution of choose your own adventure to what we have now, that is everyone chooses the adventure, is just awesome to see. And one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about this week with you guys, and God, I am happy I am able to, because as someone who wants to push the narrative of what stories can be, of how storytelling can change, and the next steps, the evolution, I want to be someone who's known for making headway, not just being good with the tools that we have. I envy it. Because they've done something that they probably realize they've done, but what I really appreciate and see a lot of beauty in. And I just think it's really cool. And I wanted to share that with you guys. So, But that wraps up for today's episode of Eat the Blank Page. I don't know what the time is for you guys, but I'm looking at an hour and 2 minutes, and my voice hurts. And I need my lungs for singing. Not really, I just like to sing in the shower. But I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful day. I hope you guys check out my story, Doppler House. It is a doppelganger love story. Think Thing mixed with The Shape of Water. It's cute. It's awesome. I like it a little too much. And if you've enjoyed this episode, there are 18 other ones for you to also enjoy. They get worse with the later they are released. So the first one's the worst, the latest one's the best. It's always going to be like that because I'm constantly learning. Hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful day. Check out all my links, follow me everywhere, and I'll see you guys in the next podcast. Goodbye.